Good morning, everybody. Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. Pleased to see you again today, or be with you rather. I have a special guest, Warren Wethington, Sheriff Warren Wethington, who's a board member of the Iowa Firearms Coalition and also is the Sheriff of Cedar County. Good afternoon.
How are you, Michael?
Super. I'm glad to have you. So we'll get right down to it. Cedar County is considering becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary county within the state of Iowa. And we've seen a flourish, a lot of events surrounding this recently. Counties are saying that they want to be part of the support of people's civil rights. So let's get right into it. What can you tell us about Cedar County, its origin of this resolution and what it really means?
Okay, well, Cedar County is a county of 18,300 people. We're surrounded by Lynn County, Johnson County, Scott County, Muscatine County, all large. We're a rural county. And in 2007, when I was appointed sheriff, the day I became sheriff, April 2nd, 2007, Cedar County became a 2A friendly county. I started issuing permits when it was still a shall issue state, may issue.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I took a little bit of heat because I stepped forward and started doing things that nobody else did. And this just shows when the Board of Supervisors are stepping forward and making resolutions protecting the Second Amendment, it reinforces the sheriff. It gives you something to stand on. You're not sitting out by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that more sheriffs start stepping up to the plate too, because in reality, the Board of Supervisors can't dictate to the sheriff what laws they choose to enforce and what laws they don't. That's why a sheriff is elected.
Yeah.
We don't have to help the federal government, but I think it's an important message to send out that we're not going to participate in unconstitutional gun laws.
Yeah.
Unconstitutional laws of any kind.
Right. Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm glad to see you take this posture and the stance. And it's kind of interesting for people out there to hear what it is you're talking about, because the truth is sheriffs have a tremendous sway over their county and what happens and what doesn't. And when you make the statement that Cedar County became a 2A sanctuary, for lack of a better way of explaining it, by virtue of you being elected, there are some people out there that don't truly understand it. And the inverse is true as well. There are people out there who have fallen into, or immediately fallen into the realm of being a anti-2A county by virtue of the sheriff that was elected for them. And so I think that that's part of the underlying problem that I see here, because I'm tickled. I am glad that individual counties are stepping forward and saying, this civil right is important. All civil rights are important, and we're going to enshrine this because it's being chipped away at or questioned so heavily that we believe we've got to do something about it. But ultimately, we really want the state to do this. I would love to see Governor Reynolds and Lieutenant Governor Gregg move forward and say, this is the signal that we want to send. This is the posture that we want to take. And ultimately, I think that'll do what Iowans really need. But in the meantime, each individual county stepping up and saying yes to civil liberties and civil rights is really, really good.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the number of people who think what I have done, what the recent Board of Supervisors are doing in other counties. They think it's illegal and we can't do it. That it's not illegal. I don't have to assist the federal government. It's the sheriff's job to be the protector of civil liberties. We're doing our job. We're not breaking the law.
Right. I had somebody ask the other day, they said, oh, well, what if an FBI guy wants a warrant and the local judge or the local sheriff, the local department won't give them any assistance? And I said, well, then go find a federal judge and get a warrant. These people can still do their jobs. That's not a problem. But if they're going to enforce things that are unconstitutional, then basically what the sanctuary statements are saying is, you're not going to have our help doing something that's unethical and immoral. And if you're going to do that, we can't get in your way, but we're certainly not going to help you. And that's kind of the gist of it. So I think that there's a pretty big misconception out there for people that say, oh, this is negating all the firearms laws within the county. No, not one iota. The law is still the law. But I think if I understand this right, and you should correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically saying that in this county, Cedar, for example, if they adopt it, is saying we're not going to go over and above the call of duty or beyond the mandate, rather, no more, no less. And so I think that that's very important.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize also, I have a lot of respect for the federal government, the FBI, the ATF has its place. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But what people don't realize is a lot of the groundwork that's done for these federal agencies is done at the city, state, and county level.
Mm-hmm.
That's where these cases are initiated. We use the federal prosecutors in Cedar Rapids a great deal with federal drug cases involving guns. I'm the first to jump in line. If there's somebody involved in criminal activity and they're using a firearm or a weapon of any kind, they need to be locked up.
Yeah.
But we're certainly not going to stop anybody from doing their job as they feel, but I'm not going to cooperate if it's an unjust, unconstitutional issue they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I watched, I live in Jasper County, and I watched, it would be yesterday, the Jasper County's board of supervisors meeting, and there was a gentleman that stood up in opposition, and the first thing he said was, I'm paraphrasing here, mind you, he said something along the lines of, the founding fathers didn't have assault rifles, blah, 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 blah. And he went right down through it, all of which he was wrong about. And of course, he doesn't understand what an assault rifle is or isn't. Jobo public doesn't have assault rifles. They may have semi-automatic rifles, but regardless, the other thing that I thought was kind of funny about that is his gaping misunderstanding of history. The founding fathers did grab the rifle that was right. It wasn't on the mantle like this story piece thing that you might see. It was right beside the door or the tent or whatever it was that they were living in. It was right there because it was a daily use item, and they grabbed what they had, which was the modern weapon of the day, and they walked right out to defend life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. They walked out to defend country by grabbing what was right there at their fingertips, and went toe to toe with other people that had the same kind of weaponry, right across the line from them. And I think that people don't understand that. They make it sound like, oh, the founding fathers couldn't have seen, what we would be doing in modern whatever. I'm like, well, you say this as you write this on a cell phone, on social media. So let's be honest about what they could or couldn't foresee. What they did know is what they had was as modern as it got, and they went and they used it. And oh, by the way, the first armies were comprised not of issued weapons, but of what they had, and they matched toe to toe with what the redcoats had, and off you went. And so we have a really crappy understanding of that, or we don't understand our history well. So there's a huge misconception out there regarding what is true of this subject, and some of the components that are contained. So I like to chip away at that every chance I get. Well,
you have those that say that it has to be a well-regulated militia. The Second Amendment's been upheld as an individual right for a couple hundred years now. It's time test proven. But to get to what our illustrious president said the other day is that if you're going to challenge the American government, you need an F-15 and nuclear weapons. Besides that being as ignorant a statement as you can make, just take time to look up the Battle of Athens, Georgia, and the Battle of Blair Mountain. These were two places where the sheriffs were corrupt. Battle of Blair Mountain, that sheriff was using World War I surplus aircraft, bombs, and water-cooled machine guns to chase Union workers out of a county in Virginia to keep the coal mines from unionizing. The name redneck came from Democratic Union workers that were going down there to help protect their other coal workers, their brother coal miners. Athens, Georgia, the sheriff sent deputies out to pick up the voters' boxes, the ballot boxes, to ensure that he won the election. And unfortunately, he did that right after World War II, when there were a lot of men that were accustomed to not putting up with that sort of activity.
Yeah.
And they stopped him. So we're not just talking about a corrupt federal government. It is so the average person can defend themselves against all who would do them wrong.
Yeah. I don't think that very many people could even grasp that concept. They've been lulled into kind of a sleep because we're really truly living in a safety net society, and there are comforts that are associated with that. And the truth is, while there may be ease and joy and good feelings and a lack of stress associated with that, nobody should be lulled into sleep, whether you're part of a political ideology that leans that way or not. The truth is, many things do come to an end, and so it would be wise to be prepared. And I see a firearm as simply a tool for preparedness, and whether it puts meat on the table or defends the life of my daughter or my son or my wife or myself, then I don't differentiate. You know, it's just a tool. So it's the person behind it, the person that wields it, a person with character and thinking and preparedness and know-how that truly make the difference. And I think that that's probably the largest part of the character associated with these resolutions. You're saying, as a county, I believe in the character of the people that live in this county, and we're going to show them that we believe in them. Oh, by the way, we love them and care about them, or we wouldn't do this. And so I think that by taking that posture, by making that statement, that you're really saying, I care, and I'm a caring person, and it matters this much. So thank you for that, Sheriff Wethington, Warren. Thank you, Cedar County, for taking this up. And what do we got, a couple weeks or so until this comes around?
Yeah, actually, we were going to discuss it today, but I didn't get it on the agenda in time. And this is important enough to the chair of the Board of Supervisors that he's going to be gone next week. So we put it off for 2 weeks because he wants to be back here when that passes.
Okay. All right. So that's the tail end of the month then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to, in terms of being timely, I want to get this video up very quickly. So it'll be, well, I might be able to get it up yet today. So it'll be today, July 14th. We'll debut this on YouTube so that people can be part of it. And then we'll make sure that everybody in Cedar County knows. We would like to see their participation, and we'd like to see them enthused about this. So is there anything that I can do to help with this, or IFC can do to help with this in the meantime?
I don't think so. I think we have a pretty decent board out here. I would imagine it'll pass unanimously. It may be 4-1. I'm not sure. But I really don't see any problems with it. For what it's worth, the constitutional carry, I'm good with that. It's there's a lot of people out there that $50 for a permit and $50 or $100 for a class is a great deal of money.
Yeah.
And I don't believe the Second Amendment and the right to self-preservation is reserved for only those who have the money, who can afford it. Training is good. Everybody should be trained. When I get caught up, I plan on having some classes, basically permit to carry classes for those that want to carry constitutional carry, and I'll put the classes on for free, just so some people can get some training. I'm a firearms instructor. There's a lot of states out there where they won't let people who are legally blind, vision impaired, they won't let them have a permit. And I realize there's a lot of people out there who are pro-gun, but when you start talking about being visually impaired, they get nervous about them having a gun. My daughter's visually impaired. She's legally blind. I've heard the comment over and over, if you can't drive a car, you shouldn't be able to carry a gun.
Yeah.
Well, all I'd ask is everybody out there, just don't take what people say and just assume it's correct, because a lot of people talk when they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll just put a challenge out there. Right now, I can drive a car. Right now, legally, I can't drive a car. And I will challenge any sheriff in the state of Iowa to an IFC match without my glasses on.
Okay, then I like it. Well, I mean, that's a very good point. Now I have tried to make it a habit to not compare driving with firearm use, because one's a right and the other one's a privilege. And we could get into that and chip away at that a little bit. But at the end of the day, I can make it very simple, and it transcends analogies. I don't believe that your daughter's life is worth any less because of the state of her sight. I don't believe that your life is worth any less with your glasses on or off, Sheriff Wethington. I know that I don't believe that. And people that are discerning and that use their mind and their hearts at the same time would echo that sentiment. Your life is just as valuable with your glasses on as they are off. So I think that that's very simple. And what we're really talking about here, and you mentioned it earlier, you touched on something that I've been trying to get across to people for a long time, and I keep saying it over and over and over. Gun control is slavery by other means. It's the truth. People, I mean, you know this, I know this. Jim Crow entered into this scenario to say there are certain people that I need to control or manipulate or whatever else, and I need tools to do so. And the next thing you know, some of these gun laws were sprang up. And whether you're somebody of color or you don't have a great deal of money, you fall in the same category. It's almost like Jim Crow enabled some sort of tiered justice system where some people were able to have enough money, wherewithal, standing to make it above into the higher echelons, and everybody else was in the lower ones. And that's wrong. I mean, that's pure discrimination. And so when I see people pushing and pushing for gun control, they may not realize it, either that or they don't care, but they're really pushing for a really crappy class warfare / racist agenda. They may not even grasp how stupid is what it is that they're doing, but I'm determined to tell people, you need to rethink this because you've got this all wrong. And you know it. I mean, you see it in your county. You just touched on it. The people with the least amount of money usually get their rear ends whipped the hardest by these measures.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I read an article once where the first gun control law on this side of the Atlantic was in 1640, and it stated that no black man, whether he be free man or not, shall possess a firearm. I've
read that, but I have never been able to affirm that. But I have read that before, several places.
Well, if that's true, I mean, you don't have to look back through history very far. You look at the American Indian, Native American. When you want to control somebody, you take their weapons away from them. And that is purely all it is it's control.
Mm-hmm. You remove their ability to say no by taking away any kind of defense they have for themselves, and then you cross your arms and you say, what are you going to do about it? Yep. It's done. And so it's not necessarily the tool that they have, but it's the idea that they could defend themselves. They usually keep a lot of people at bay. And so when you remove their ability to defend themselves and to basically defend their thoughts more so than their actions, even, this is what you have. You have tyranny, and that's wrong. We know that. So anyway, was there anything else that we needed to cover here real quick? I'm sorry we chased a few rabbits, but we have a tendency to do that, and that's okay.
Well, I'll chase one more. Okay. You know, when Iowa announced it would be a constitutional carry state, Cedar Rapids Gazette or the Des Moines Register ran an article about how when shootings are up, legislature allows people to carry guns with no permit, no background, no training. It couldn't possibly be that shootings are up because one particular party has hamstrung law enforcement, and a lot of good people have left the field of employment, and they can't hire more people to fill those places. There's a large community out here where they've taken all their detectives, their plain clothes, and put them back on the street chasing gun calls. Couldn't possibly be connected, could it?
Well, as I said, as you said, or we both discussed here, we are chasing a few rabbits, but I will tell you, I think that we as a culture, as Iowans, and as Americans need to seriously be paying attention to what moves are being made and what the logical outcomes for those moves are. So when we have a mass exodus from law enforcement, whether that be at the county level, city level, state, federal, whatever, when we have a mass exodus of law enforcement officers, and usually the best ones, the people who are learned, who have been around the block, who have a great deal of exposure and time under the badge, when they leave, now we're going to backfill them as quickly as we can with what we can get. And because it would be a hard line of service to go into, we need to ask ourselves what the new folks look like. And I've got to tell you, I'm hearing some scary things from people in law enforcement, where they talk about who's being brought in, the mannerisms they have. I wouldn't talk so much about characters. I would their desire to follow an order, whether it's right or wrong, and the inability to discern for themselves. And that to me is very scary. That's a potential huge move the wrong direction for law enforcement on a lot of levels, because right now you've got a ton of conscientious people out there that are doing fantastic work, very demanding work, and still using good judgment doing it. And because it is that you're sending somebody out armed with a gun and with a badge and saying, I want you to do the best in every scenario that gets thrown at you. And that's a pretty tall order. And most are able to do that most all of the time. And when you remove that element and you say, I just want you to follow my order as your commanding officer, I don't care what's in front of you, what's going on. I'm telling you, the quality of actually applied law enforcement, I predict will plummet. And that worries me a lot, Warren. It really does.
Well, again, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I'm a peace officer. I think a lot of our issues started when we stopped seeing ourselves as peace officers and became law enforcement officers.
Okay.
By state code, we're designated peace officers. Our job is to keep the peace. There are a lot of people getting into law enforcement now that don't understand that. They think it's a competition. See how many people you can take to jail, how many tickets you can write. That does not develop good relationships between law enforcement and the public.
No. No, it does not. We probably better stop right there, because that's truth. And we like to see that change. And so IFC's position has always been to be in harmony with law enforcement. We want the law enforcement community to understand that there are laws on the books that are bad. And while we will follow them because that's our ethical agreement with the law, we opt into it. We certainly, you can guarantee that we'll work to change those laws as we follow them. We may not like it, the law that we have to abide, but we'll follow it and we'll work to change it. So that's where we're at on the subject. And I know that you understand that, or you wouldn't be a board member of our organization. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's wrap this one up, and we'll get it posted up so people can enjoy it and learn a little bit. Any parting thoughts before we go, Sheriff Wethington?
No, look forward to doing this again.
Fair enough. I think that you touched on corruption and some other things like that. And I know that you've got a very specific story to share. I want to get you on an interview so that people can understand that, because it's a fascinating story. all the way through, and also the accolades that you were awarded or bestowed as a result. So that's a topic that we want to touch on for another day, please.
Yeah, that'd be
All right.
fine.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. Become an IFC member. Thank you.